there is the whole remix thing to talk about. So while
I'm so mad.
While you were in
I'm
Canada,
not mad. Yep.
and therefore not playing WoW, a lot of things happened, and I think a small amount of people, which probably would include me, were like, I don't want to say happy enough, because okay. Wait a second. If those upgrades weren't like that, I probably would give a shit about my max level remix character. But because the upgrades are the way that they are, I'm not touching that.
Yeah, because they're 500,000 bronze to upgrade everything. You're like,
And it's also not like, there's no account-wide discount either.
Yeah.
And it's a time-limited event. And I'm also a time-limited event because of death.
So, that's where most of my problem comes in.
I've just self-radicalized. Incredible, let's go!
Yeah, I do it all the time. That's what I mean. Like, I was playing the ever-loving shit out of Remix when it was out, right? And then I went away. And I came back. And I hopped in to do a quick round of, like, the raids with the guild. And most of that was our one guy who was very strong. And our second guy who was almost very strong. Just walking forward and exploding the whole place. And I was like, it's fine hanging out with people. But it was very much a whole W gameplay. And I'm not a fan of holding W for gameplay.
Was it normal?
Yeah, it was normal, yeah. But, like, even if it wasn't, the power disparity was way too great. Like, you'd have needed, like...
Oh, right. It's impossible. It's almost impossible to balance.
Yeah, so, like, it's the differential between, like, RTK and our monk, who are doing the most damage. Like, we would have had probably a little bit more of an actual gameplay experience if not for them being there. But because that's the way the game mode works, you don't want to do it normally, because the game mode is largely designed around the speed of people going, BAM! Exploding, right? Because they didn't limit it enough to make it a gameplay where you experience any gameplay. So the point of the game mode is to not have any gameplay. The point of the game mode is to mindlessly farm. Which, if that's the way your entire game set up, sure. But you can tell that they decided they didn't actually intend for the game to be completely broken. Because
how do they come to those upgrade values?
I think they intended this to be a longer burn season. And then people frog farmed. Yeah. And then people Yongle farmed. And people farmed everything that's slightly hyper farmed, everything that's slightly hyper spawned. And then people were like, and we have ourselves a little 20 person or 20 level trial account that can one-shot dungeon bosses. Yeah. Well, why would we do anything else? And that's where the problem kind of lies, where I don't want to play it like they probably had some intention, kind of slowly, kind of enjoyably, kind of experience a little bit of it. I might have enjoyed that if that was the way everyone played. But you've got this like massive class division where you've got people who are like absolutely destroying it, and they're just walking through, even like enough of them walking through Mythic Siege, and you're like, okay, well, that's fine. You don't really have to do mechanics, you barely don't have to play anything, sure, whatever, it's fine. But then you've got other people who are like, I'm sort of playing the game, how do I get to that? It's like, oh, spend 20 hours farming, spend 30, 40 hours farming. I'm like, I don't think I will, actually. And for me, it's down to the thing of like, this doesn't feel like a designed game mode anymore. This feels like you tried something and then it went fucking haywire and now no one knows what it is. It is full Kusuke energy. It is full, like, the only thing that like saves this is that the people who are stupidly overpowered didn't fucking buy it. Because it feels like a non-gacha Tower of Fantasy to me. Where you're like, oh yeah, what's that? You wheeled, which in this case is you frog farmed early, or you like fully upgrade everything. Then you just walk through the game. Which way is intended to play? And the answer is kind of both and kind of neither. And if you don't have a game that's like actually if you don't have a game that's like got a clear vision to me, I don't want to fucking play it. I'm not going to go around questing and doing shit.
Yeah, because quests and the other parts of the expansion experience, which are especially applicable because of Mists of Pandaria's cohesive narrative.
Where'd that go? Oh, sorry, all the staff left. Whoops.
It was great, but like other than level up content, they like that bit doesn't feel like remix. It's just immediately went to Diablo the Raid's done.
Yeah. So it feels like there's that confluence of like, I don't really know what this is supposed to be. I don't really feel like I'm satisfied doing the normal kind of gameplay that's expected of me because I'm weak and I should be farming. And it's that awkward experience of like, almost in the same way of like you're trying to enjoy Torghast, but you have that like itch at the back of your mind that's like, this is your Stockholm syndrome little shithead cage. You're like, okay, I guess I'll be in the legendary cuck cage this week. Sweet, let's fantastic.
It's even the thing like you have maybe 50,000. Let's say 50 grand. You're like, oh, I could buy that cool rare mount, but that's an upgrade. That's one upgrade for one bit of gear. Well, at a higher level, but you know what I mean, right? Like even that's not a particularly nice decision. I think that the tying of bronze,
that was definitely a mistake.
That backfired.
It might have been better if the upgrade costs were substantially smaller and the cosmetic costs were substantially higher. And then it was like the intention clearly was, well, you've got your gameplay loop and then you unlock cosmetics at the end. And they had tied more cosmetic unlocks to achievements.
And
that maybe would have made more
sense.
sense.
For the heroic raids, you could have those be radical steps up in difficulty from each other. Like radical. But also increases in bronze. But then the problem that they would have is that would be far too prescriptive. Because then quest stuff couldn't be competitive with that. And then that would mean that if the currency or the cosmetics were more expensive, then all the quest people would lose out, which kind of sucks because I think they will be interested in the cosmetics. So it's weird. They've it's very bizarre.
They clearly they did not balance bronze acquisition rates anywhere near enough. Even the trying to continually work on it, it hasn't equalized out the game mode whatsoever. So anytime you go, well, what am I going to do in Remix today? The answer is do some brain dead farming or don't bother. Obviously, there's they just have fun for it, and to me, that doesn't really work for me in this game mode quite as much.
I'm overall
put off.
If the designer's hand has created a system of incentives that runs against that, that's a genuine problem in your design. Because one of the things that game design does is it provides the right sort of enforcement to help encourage somebody along a vaguely intended path that involves them making vaguely intended decisions and confronting vaguely intended dilemma, and then also having second-to-second fun. Yeah. So if your reinforcement design then doesn't do that and creates sort of lose-lose questions, because it's not like, do I spend my bronze on the dragon or the upgrade? If you get one, you lose the other, and that actually means it is a lose-lose. Because every formulation of that has a lose in it somewhere. Will that you got the mount or got the upgrade completely negate the negative you didn't do the other thing because of the shared currency with very bizarre and uneven acquisition rates? No, it won't. It's like you just sort of map that out on the table, right? And almost every player interaction that involves, everything that involves not walking away, there is a lose somewhere. Almost whenever people, they want to demonstrate the prisoner's dilemma, so they sort of, map a little decision graph thingy or table, whatever, diagram, a little bit like that. That's a problem. It's a big problem. Especially when you're trying to be a bit more Diablo, because Diablo is just super, unga bunga, go. It's super that. And of course, Diablo has got multiple different currencies to handle multiple different things. And, even Diablo, they've recently ran into a bit of a thing where people found that gold was too stingy for the masterworking system. And that's one of the things they've had to patch. But again, they, generally that's where their gold was going, and they wanted to continue masterworking or temper. I think it was the masterworking. But it's not like it was that. or get something cool for your character, because that's in the store. You know what I mean, though?
Yeah.
So that's like it's a design headache, and I can see why that. I think they feel paralyzed because
Obviously
the problem is really simple. It's the high numbers of most things, but specifically the upgrades. If they squish those upgrades, they're worried that people will be angry. Now, a lot of people at the top end have said, nope, squish it. I did the thing. Other people shouldn't have to do it. Squish it, please. It's better for the game. Because I suppose they probably want MoP Remix to have a healthy, geared endgame population for them to play with.
Of course, yeah.
So they don't feel like they can do the upgrades from that. But they can just inflate gold. You know? Just inflate the Reichsmark. Pay off your debt. Job's good. Done.
Yeah, exactly.
But if they do that, everyone's going to be like, excuse me, are you doing an inflation on me? Some people on Twitter like that. And then what have you done? You've basically done a very similar thing to if you nerf the bronze costs. But then also, you don't want a situation like whenever they moved from season to season. Was it in Legion? One of the expansions, whenever they moved season to season, they basically whacked on another 0, so it didn't matter.
Was that the BFA artifact part, maybe?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
You know, it's like,
the Titanic, the residue from BFA.
That was it. It was the Titanic residue. Yeah. Yeah, exactly like that. So if you just inflate the whole currency to the point where what you had before feels irrelevant, then angry painters get elected to power. And that's what led to Garrosh.
Sure did, yeah. Yeah. I didn't know Garrosh was a painter. I must check out Laura and see if it holds.
Yeah, he painted the blood.
See if it holds. Yeah, so like I see a lot of talk and chat how the bronze costs are fine, just raid. And I'm gonna be honest here, the prospect of just raid, as in just do the raids that don't have any gameplay for like 2 hours if you're doing them quick every day, I would sooner eat glass.
Oh, well, there's a key difference. Again, there's a key difference here to Diablo. So the current, this model works, I suppose, up until you face roll Mythic. Because with Diablo 4, you end up with a pit. And the pit is basically like a greater rift. So the whole point of that is that it is that infinitely scaling style thing. But of course, in a game like Diablo, the entire challenge is, can you have a skill, an item build, and, you've got all your god rolls, you've optimized the shit out of your character, and it turns out you're using a Holy Bolt elixir because they're very powerful. You literally, I think it's like you can't really get past 100 without using the Holy Bolts, because the Holy Bolts is so good. I think the highest people had was 141. But basically, the point is there's like a near infinitely scaling thing in the form of the pit, and that's there because it's Diablo, it's a progression game, and for some people, they need that like extremely heavy resistance weight that they fight against all the time at endgame. And that's really exciting and fun to them because it's an expression of their creativity and buildcraft. You then look at sort of this in WoW, you don't necessarily have that creativity and buildcraft. You do have some of it, and it's cool that there is some of it.
Very, very, very little.
I know they've nerfed some.
Very little, because it was always just like, and this is the problem.
It was always a 90-day event.
It's a problem with buildcraft as well in a lot of games where it's like, oh, well, this is such a over-the-top game that you're looking for the exploded thing that doesn't work right. You're not looking for the good build. You're not looking for an interesting build that you're making. You're looking for what's the thing that is the broken one that they haven't fixed yet. And that's kind of the overwhelming issue, I think, with a lot of it and how it fits to me. And this is like going to sound weird, and like you're completely fine to like enjoy it, whatever. But for me, it's a case of it feels like it doesn't feel like it's well designed. It doesn't feel like it works. And I find it very difficult to actually enjoy anything that's not super clearly defined, or it feels off or feels wrong to me, at least not in like a fun way. Because like I don't want to like raid all day every day, because that's, or like at least for a couple hours a day, because that's a lot of time. Like, how many hours do you have to it as well? Like,
in a lot of these turbo grind games, they're solo. They can be done in a group too, but like you can do, you can do it solo. You can't do that here. So, if there was a version of Mythic Garrosh that, was this MoP Remix's equivalent of the pit in Diablo 4, and you were going in there in your tricked out character, then you wouldn't have, because I know a lot of people there, if you go on the WoW subreddit and stuff, you just have people like, they're posting whatever the strange group requirements are, and there's been a lot of interesting social dynamics.
Oh, those are great, yeah.
So in a game like that, you can sort of do a lot of that in a very self-serve way, which means the idea of, go knock out a few of those. Well, you just go do them instantly, instead of applying for queues and maybe a group breaks up or, yada, yada, yada. So it's like it translates imperfectly over to World of Warcraft. And I think like daily organized raiding is... There's a version of this where everything is way less inflated. Things are on a weekly lockout. You get more progress per unit time and it feels better. Because I think by putting so many of like the raids and stuff on a daily lockout, you really... that doesn't feel super sustainable.
Yeah, I know.
I think for a lot of people...
That would work.
Yeah, you're maybe looking at that and thinking, I mean, Throne of Thunder, I love that. But if the thing is balanced so that I do Throne of Thunder and then I can afford one upgrade for one item in my character, I'm not interested. If you're telling me I do Throne of Thunder, it has a weekly lockout on that character, right? And I can get absolutely just tricked out, really good, because again, it's a time-limited event. But... once I've kind of grabbed those, low-hanging fruit of my weekly, raid or whatever, okay, well, now I can go quest, do other things, or maybe start an alt. But because it is super expensive, but then also super grindable because it's daily, that has fundamentally changed the proposition to me to the point where it's turned into a game that's not... It doesn't really look like it's worth my time. As opposed to a more condensed... but temporally spaced out experience, which is the weekly lockout. And I think one of the reasons why is because there's people who will prefer Diablo over WoW or WoW over Diablo. I think for those of us who prefer WoW over Diablo, some of what we like is the meaningfulness in the raid. And if WoW's progression systems were kind of like that juiced up, that expensive, but also that grindable, I just don't think that would appeal to a lot of people who actually like the idea of the weekly raid lockout. And I guess I don't really know what's going on with Lost Ark, but I know it was a supremely grindable game at the start. And at least from what I could tell, that really burned people out. And then
people wrecked themselves.
Yeah, and then they wandered off and bots and so on. And I don't really know what the state of Lost Ark is these days.
I haven't clue myself. It is interesting. It's like, it's all about like how much do people enjoy the actual grind in the process itself. Because I'm no stranger to actually grinding video games, but there's something about the general aura of Remix that I don't really feel like grinding out.
So there's a difference.
I really don't know. I can't quite put my finger on it. Some of it is the fact that like there is effectively no gameplay in it outside of walk forward and press whatever buttons.
There are times you would,
explode.
I think, far rather... and you would have a more cognitively engaging experience if you were grinding frogs versus doing it in a raid. The reason why I think that is...
I did enjoy the frog farm more, but that was literally because there was 3 of us in voice chat.
But hang on. The raid, as you said, is just press W.
Yeah.
And there's never really any new information for your brain to take in and process. You then mix that or move that over to the frog farm. Your brain is constantly scanning. Where's the next one? Where's the next one? Where's the next one? Oh, it's there. Tack, go. Where's the next one? You are...
I don't know how you frog farmed, but I closed my eyes, hit tab and frost shock.
No, but like it is a more... I would almost say it is more of a predatory experience. Be that looking for the kill or be that, scavenging for berries. There's this like very human thing in that kind of farming. But then when it just turns into my inputs don't really matter, I'm just holding W for unit of time to progress and get currency, it's boring. A real good example of that again is bronze balling. Going around, flying, picking up those bronze balls.
For that 10 bronze a ball?
You get about 5k an hour, 5.5.
An hour?
That's what I got.
5k an hour from...
They buffed them when you were in Canada.
From flying,
and you get way more.
flying through a load of bronze balls?
Yeah.
Is that all? Fucking horrible.
But
horrible time efficiency.
Here's where it's
Why would I do that when I could raid instead?
And then there's the Giga
I don't
balls.
want to raid.
The Giga balls that give you threads. And again, to anyone, they're like, well, so the balls give you threads, and the but the I was playing that. I'm like, wow, I've really got into like a state of flow with this. In a world where I know, like, if I go into LFR, there is a chance of sleep. You know when the sort of micro sleeps that you feel.
The actual death, like
driving micro sleeps.
No.
So ideally you don't, but you do feel them as little demons that are sort of running, and then you're like, okay, I am entering into micro sleep territory in my drive. It is time to pull over. LFR is totally like that for me. But you see, going around getting the bronze balls with dragon riding. So whenever you pick up a ball,
play the game a little bit.
Yes, whenever you pick up a ball, you get a vigor, and then what happens is you start to pattern recognition, and now you know where the balls spawn in all of the different zones. So then when you do a whole bunch of balls, in your head, you immediately know there's like 5 different directions you could go in. And you're trying to think, okay, well, based on my most recent path, where was I last? Where's more likely to have a high density of balls that have spawned? And you're doing all of this like hyper second-to-second grind-oriented decision-making that also in this case it's a very real-time form of gameplay because it's dragon riding. It's probably like some of that is the closest to like granular gameplay that WoW gets. When I say granular gameplay, I just mean, all of our combat happens sort of with the global cooldown. So when I say granular gameplay, literally, I'm just talking how granular it is. There's not another point to that. But I suppose the more granular it is, I don't know, there's maybe more for your brain to latch on to. But I think that's why
your moment-to-moment inputs actually have some input on impact on what's happening.
And that's why a lot of people, I think, can gulp farm. And then you ask them to do more designed, better content, and they enjoy it less. And I guess that does make me think about people grinding in RuneScape and all of those things. And you just sort of start to think like, how much of this high budget that you've put on top of cookie clickers actually keeping people playing as opposed to marketing to them? And that is a scary thought to contend.
Context is very important.
Yeah, context.
Because that's the thing that gets me. And this is like...
that's why I'm talking about how the raid, in the context of a farm, a raid is sleepy, but for some reason a bunch of frogs are flying around in circles is not sleepy.
Yeah, it is. It's literally size of thing.
Yeah.
It's size of thing where you go, well, I'm going to...
size of the loop.
Yeah, so if you... did you ever get the experience where you're playing like the single player game and you are finished a segment and you really like the game, but you finished a segment and you can tell there's like a pause and it's like, okay, well, I couldn't be bothered doing this again. I couldn't bother having this whole thing. And this happened to me playing Nine Souls, which is a excellent game, by the way, fantastic Metroidvania, made by Red Candle, the Taiwanese devs behind Devotion, who had they had the Winnie the Whipsy. And their Nine Souls, fucking beautiful game. I highly recommend it. But I like finished the boss on like Saturday, Sunday, whatever it was. I was like, I don't have the energy in my brain to do another like whole map segment and like remember everything is and learn all the new enemies and jump and parry everything and get the timings. I'm like, I'm fucking tired. I'm going done. It's like that kind of the size of segment thing. And I guess like smaller kind of segments that are easier to repeat and loop are probably better for some grinding for some cases. Whereas for me to like have some input that matters in that kind of size form. So I don't know. I'm basically trying to muse on what it is exactly because I know this is a little bit of a me issue. Like I'm not trying to be like, MoP remix is dog shit. I actually think like from a literal perspective of have they met their design goals, the answer will be a large we've made a big mess.
Oh yeah.
Our parts of the mess, great. Almost certainly. is the fact that a load of people are fighting and talking shit in chat because I don't want to fucking raid every day. I'm like, well, that's the issue. He's like, yeah, that's the issue. I don't want to do that boring fucking...
Yeah, but
that zero brain shit.
My point there was...
Yeah, I know.
A raid is fundamentally not designed for daily repetitious play.
Well, people are enjoying it all the same because of the context around it, not necessarily for the activity itself.
And how long is that? How long is that actually sustainable for? How long until you immediately, you run into the over-justification effect and people don't want to do that scale of grind again?
Well, yeah, that's why it's a limited time.
Of course, it's an event. They'll do it. Doesn't have to be sustainable.
They'll do it until they're done.
Yeah,
they'll do it until they're done, which is like the kind of the thing that works for it very well. So it's like I'm using like, why was I enjoying it more or less fine before, even if it was a little bit grindy? Why am I enjoying it less now?
Well, it's because...
And I think I have two answers.
Okay.
Answer one is I'm novelty driven, so I run out of things to do. I'm like, I've been in Siege of Orgrimmar. Why the fuck would I go in there again if there's nothing in there for me? Because I've seen everything in there,
and you're not getting a tightly tuned experience.
I'm not having fun in there. So where does the fun come from? The fun comes from getting the numbers, and the numbers going up, and then your gear going up. I'm like, do I care about my gear going up? What's the point? What's the purpose of that? And it is to do the same thing faster. No, thank you. It's the same with M+. I'll do M+ until I get KSM. And then I'll do it if someone's like, do you want to have... I'll enjoy M+, like, do you want to go to it? Sure, I'll do it. But like the actual context for me ends once I hit my goal. And for some the goal people, there is an achievement.
For some people, their goal that is maybe reflected in a Diablo player wanting to progress into the pit is not possible. Because there's no equivalent to that sort of content here.
Yeah.
And then I think it's just fundamentally that raids are not designed to be ground out in the way that they are currently done. The content is not made to do that. If you were designing a grind, you would design the grind differently to a raid.
Almost
so that's going to be an issue. I think a problem. I mean, yeah, it's still fun, but it's a question of sustainability, and I think it's a question of like what lessons are drawn from this. Because while it is fun, there has certainly been quite a lot. There's been quite a lot of frustration and drama. At least, like, I mean, I don't have a greatly, like, personally invested position in all of this. I'm trying to, from looking at comments, looking at the Reddit, looking at Twitter, just looking at the discussion, see how well this has landed. And it seems, well, there is a very large win. People want to like it. Yeah, and that's because it has cool ideas. There's a lot of novelty in it. It's a fantastic expansion that it's based on. So that's all great. I think the frustrations are just with what is the identity of this, and then what are the trickle-down effects of that not particularly well identified, or that particularly well formed identity, as I think is mostly expressed by Bronze buying everything. Because I think for Blizzard, they thought, well, normal people could just level up, get the 40k bronze, or, originally their achievement bronze, which was like 8 bronze, and buy the cosmetics, and they'd have a great time. And then for everybody else who, wants to, the raids drop a lot of bronze, but the upgrades are super expensive. And it's like, you're just playing in another economy. And I think they thought that those two different, like, player goals or player profiles, like, they're using the same currency, but they're almost playing in different economies. But ultimately, that's not worked. Because then I think the people who are doing quests and stuff like that, they're like, wait, they're getting that much bronze for doing that, and it's just a daily grind, and I'm getting barely anything for doing these, and I scrap a level 70 weapon and get like 50 bronze. What? And then they feel like they can't access the way to play the game, and then that's demotivating. Now, if bronze was used for upgrades, and you had another currency, one that was like designed towards novelty, like the achievements and like sampling the whole menu, and those achievements were uber rewarding in that, which would mean, yeah, you could grind your raids for that, or you could do the uber rewarding achievement. Either feels strong, and it's on a different currency, so the upgradability of things is completely disconnected from the earning of cosmetics. Then I think you'd have a player economy that wouldn't be fighting with itself as much and causing that sort of, that demotivational, the demotivational thing that you're feeling, and that I think a lot of people who just want to quest and chill would feel when they then look at the bronze and they're like, oh my god, it's that much bronze, and the way to get it is from that. And then for the raiders who are doing the same thing, but with the upgrade costs, especially, vinegar, chili put in the eyes and vinegar in the wound of then your alts don't have a discount. And I think, to me, that's the craziest bit. That your alts don't have a discount on your upgrade. And that's just weird, because it ain't like that in life. And I guess that's why we have this discourse. Discourse, what a word.
Yeah, it's certainly interesting to think about. Because I've never seen, I don't think I've ever seen such a split kind of experience in World of Warcraft. And it comes directly as a result of them going, here's one kind of unifying thing that you can approach however you like. Because at least in the actual game itself, it's a little bit more delineated and not all carried through the same way. Which is kind of fun to see that this like kind of crosstalk probably only really matters for a handful of players who are sensitive to kind of the whole system.
See, I'm not sure.
So I imagine there's a lot of people who are just like, I'll do my daily raids and it'll be fine.
There's a sampling. There's a sampling problem. It's harder to sample that set of the players.
Yeah, of course.
It's far easier to sample the people, for them to be included in the data, who are heavily invested and are upgrading, because they will tweet about it.
Yeah,
they will. They do. They have, and their points are valid. Like that is the other side of it. Like their points are valid. Like Narissa of WoW had hit like 556, and she'd said, I don't care, nerf it, please. I got there. It shouldn't be like this. Nerf it, please. And similar people, or people who are in her position who maybe want to play an alt, and that's just not going to happen.